The chair recognizes the gentlelady from Tennessee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My amendment seeks to prohibit any taxpayer funds from being used by the Federal Communications Commission, the FCC, to preempt state municipal broadband laws. In other words, we don't need unelected federal agency bureaucrats in Washington telling our states what they can and can't do with respect to protecting their limited taxpayer dollars in private enterprises. As a former state senator from Tennessee, I strongly believe in states' rights. I know that's an issue that's important to many of my colleagues in this chamber, and that's why I found it deeply troubling that FCC Chairman Tom Wheeler has repeatedly stated this past year that he intends to preempt states' rights when it comes to the role of state policy over municipal broadband. Chairman Wheeler's statements pose a direct challenge on the constitutionality of states' sovereign functions. It wrongly assumes Washington knows what is best and forgets that the right answer doesn't always come from the top down. Mr. Chairman, 20 states across our country have held public debates and enacted laws that limit municipal broadband to varying degrees. These state legislatures and governors have not only listened, but have responded to the voices of their constituents. They are closer to the people than the chairman of the FCC. They are accountable to their voters. States have spoken and said we should be careful and deliberate in how we allow public entry into our vibrant communications marketplace, a sector of our economy that invests tens of billions of dollars each year, accounts for tens of thousands of jobs, and serves millions of consumers. Municipal broadband projects have had a mixed bag of results. There have been some successes and also some spectacular failures that have left taxpayers on the hook. For example, look at the failed Utopia project that was created massive disruption and is challenging taxpayers. In fact, it was recently reported that the residents of 11 Utah cities would be billed as much as $20 a month as part of a plan to salvage the state's one-heralded Utopia fiber optic network. That doesn't sound like a model the federal government needs to force against the wishes of state elected officials. That doesn't sound like competition, and it sounds like another federal bailout waiting to happen. State governments across the country understand and are more attentive to the needs of the American people than unelected federal bureaucrats in Washington. That's why this past June I was joined by 59 of our colleagues in sending a letter to Chairman Wheeler stating our concerns and requesting a response to a list of questions that we're still waiting to hear from him to respond to. The U.S. Senate also sent a letter to the FCC on this issue, and they are likewise waiting for a response. It seems the FCC is content to tell our states how they will manage their sovereign economic affairs, but they won't answer to the Congress who is responsible for exercising oversight of the agency. Inserting the FCC into our state's economic and fiscal affairs sets a dangerous precedent and violates state sovereignty in a manner that warrants deeper examination. This Congress cannot sit idly by and let an independent agency trample on our states' rights. This is an issue that should be left to our states, and if it comes to a point where we need a national standard, then that debate should be held by Congress, not the FCC, and should be done with the participation of the American people. I urge adoption, and I reserve the balance of my time. I think it's important to note that what this amendment does is to allow those citizens and those cities and those states that have made this decision, this is how they want to handle broadband, to do it. It gives the power to them. It keeps bureaucrats sitting at the FCC from making these decisions and overriding the wishes of our states and of those cities that are located therein. I urge adoption of the amendment, and I yield back the balance of my time.